My beloved friends, I am Paramahansa Yogananda. And what if I told you that the suffering you're experiencing right now, the depression that feels like meaningless torment, the pain that seems to serve no purpose except to break you down, is actually a sacred initiation orchestrated by your own higher self to force you to transcend the limited consciousness you have been living in, to shatter the ego structures that keep you imprisoned in a room, and awaken you to a true divine nature in ways that comfort and ease never could. This is not spiritual bypassing that dismisses real pain. This is the actual mechanism of how divine consciousness uses suffering as the fire that burns away everything false until only truth remains. Revealed through decades of deep meditation where I have witnessed how the soul deliberately creates challenges that appear as obstacles but are actually accelerators of evolution. What I am about to share will completely transform your relationship with your suffering and give you a meditation technique rooted in Kriya Yoga that allows you to extract the spiritual growth hidden within your depression and emerge from this darkness not just recovered, but transformed into a more awakened, powerful, and enlightened being. Before we explore this sacred truth that most spiritual teachers are afraid to speak, I need you to activate your receptivity by writing in the comments immediately, "My suffering is my awakening, and I embrace divine transformation." Write this declaration now, because when you make this statement, you are shifting from victim consciousness that resists suffering to warrior consciousness that uses suffering as fuel for evolution. Your subconscious mind responds to commands issued with conviction, and commenting is your first act of cooperating with the divine intelligence that is using your current pain for your ultimate liberation. Do it now, and let me reveal why the depth of your suffering is directly proportional to the height of the consciousness you are being prepared to embody. Listen to what I'm going to explain, because this will shatter the false comfort of believing that suffering is always a mistake, always preventable, always something to be eliminated as quickly as possible without extracting its teaching. You have been told by well-meaning therapists, doctors, and even spiritual teachers that suffering serves no purpose, that depression is simply a malfunction to be corrected, that the goal is to return you to a baseline state of comfortable functioning where you can continue living your ordinary life without this painful interruption. That this approach, while providing temporary relief from acute symptoms, completely misses the profound spiritual opportunity that suffering presents and often leaves people in a state of managed mediocrity rather than catalyzed transformation. They medicate you, counsel you, support you back to the life you were living before the suffering began, never questioning whether perhaps that old life was the actual problem and the suffering is your soul's rebellion against continuing to live unconsciously. The truth that I have discovered through my own journey and through guiding thousands of souls through their dark nights is that suffering, especially the existential suffering of depression that questions the meaning and value of life itself, is not a random affliction or a punishment from an angry God or a simple biochemical malfunction. Suffering at this depth is a divine intervention, a wake-up call from your higher self that knows you are capable of far more consciousness, wisdom, and spiritual realization than you have been settling for in your comfortable but unconscious existence. Your soul looks at the life you have been living, the endless cycle of seeking pleasure and avoiding pain, the identification with temporary achievements and possessions, the relationships based on need rather than love, the work that pays bills but crushes your spirit, and it says, "This is not why you incarnated. This is not the fullness of what you are capable of experiencing and expressing. It is time to wake up." And because you will not wake up voluntarily, because the ego resists growth and clings to the familiar even when the familiar is suffocating, your soul creates circumstances that force awakening through the only language the ego truly understands, which is suffering. Through decades of intensive meditation practice and communion with divine consciousness, I have witnessed directly how this process operates at the soul level. Before you incarnated into this lifetime, your higher self, which exists beyond time and sees your entire evolutionary journey across multiple lifetimes, plans specific challenges and crises that would occur at particular junctures to catalyze your growth. Some of these challenges are karmic, balancing actions from past lives. Some are dharmic, pushing you toward your true purpose, and some are purely evolutionary, designed to crack open your limited sense of self and force expansion into higher consciousness. The depression you are experiencing now was planned by your own soul before you were born, scheduled to arrive at this precise moment in your life because your higher self knew that by now you would have outgrown your current level of consciousness and would need a catalyst to move to the next level, but your ego would resist the necessary changes unless forced by suffering so intense you could not ignore or bypass it. This is why your depression feels so existential, so all-encompassing, so much more than just sadness about specific circumstances. This is why no external solution seems to help, why achieving goals or changing situations does not resolve the emptiness. This is why you feel like you are dying, because you are dying not physically but egoically. The person you thought you were, the identity you built through your roles and achievements and relationships, that false self is being systematically dismantled by your suffering. And it feels like death because from the ego's perspective it is death. But from the soul's perspective, this is birth. The caterpillar must dissolve completely in the cocoon before it can emerge as the butterfly. You are in the dissolution phase, and while it is excruciating, it is also essential. There is no way to become the butterfly while remaining the caterpillar. The old form must die for the new form to emerge. Now I must reveal the specific spiritual growth that are hidden within your depression, because understanding what you are being prepared for helps you cooperate with the process rather than just endure it. The first and most fundamental growth is the shift from ego identification to soul awareness. Your entire life until this depression, you are being completely identified with your personality, your thoughts, your emotions, your body, your circumstances. You believed I'm this person with this history, living this particular life. But suffering, especially depression that strips away all pleasure and meaning from the things your ego valued, forces you to realize that you cannot be these temporary phenomena because you are the consciousness observing them. In the depths of depression, when everything that defined you loses its power, when achievements feel hollow and relationships feel empty, you start to discover that there is something in you that exists beyond all these changing conditions, a witnessing presence that remains even when everything else collapses. This is your soul, your eternal self, and depression is forcing you to discover it by removing everything that is not it. The second major growth is the development of compassion and humility. Before suffering, most people are unconsciously arrogant, judging others who struggle, believing their own success proves their superiority, lacking genuine empathy for those in pain because they have never been broken themselves. Depression shatters this arrogance completely. It brings you to your knees in humility, showing you that you are not in control, that you are vulnerable, that the comfortable life you build can collapse at any moment. This humbling is not meant to destroy you, but to open your heart to universal human suffering, to connect you with every other soul who has ever felt this pain, to develop the deep compassion that comes only from having been in hell yourself. Many great spiritual teachers, including myself, went through periods of profound suffering that broke our egos and opened our hearts to serve humanity with genuine understanding rather than intellectual concepts about enlightenment. The third growth is the dismantling of false values and the discovery of authentic purpose. Before depression, you were probably living according to values you absorbed unconsciously from your culture, your family, your society. You were chasing success, approval, security, pleasure, all external goals that can never provide lasting fulfillment. Depression reveals the emptiness of these pursuits by removing your ability to feel satisfaction from them. Everything that once motivated you now feels pointless, meaningless. This is not pathology. This is wisdom breaking through. Your soul is showing you that you have been investing your life energy in things that do not actually matter at the deepest level, and it is creating space for you to discover what does matter, which is always something related to your authentic purpose, your unique contribution, your dharma. Many people emerge from depression with completely different values and life direction, finally aligned with their soul's purpose rather than their ego's agenda. The fourth growth is the development of faith and trust in divine intelligence. Before suffering, most people relate to God or the universe as a vending machine that should give them what they want when they want it, and when it does not, they feel betrayed or abandoned. Depression destroys this transactional spirituality by forcing you through an experience where no amount of prayer or positive thinking makes the suffering stop quickly. You are forced to either lose faith completely or to develop a much deeper faith that trusts divine intelligence even when you cannot understand why you are suffering, that knows you are being guided even through the darkness, that believes there is meaning and purpose even when you cannot see it. This mature faith, forged to the fire of unanswered prayers and continued suffering, is infinitely stronger than the naive faith that believes God should prevent all discomfort. Now I must give you the meditation practice that allows you to actively cooperate with the spiritual growth hidden in your depression rather than just passively enduring the pain. This practice does not eliminate suffering overnight, but it transforms your relationship with suffering from resistance to acceptance to utilization, which changes everything. Starting tonight, commit to this practice for a minimum of 40 days. 1 hour before sleep, sit comfortably with eyes closed and spend 20 minutes simply observing your suffering without trying to change it. Notice where you feel it in your body. Notice the thoughts associated with it. Notice the resistance you have to feeling it. And then consciously relax that resistance. Breathe into the suffering. Allow it to be exactly as it is. Stop fighting it and start investigating it with curious awareness. Ask yourself these transformative questions. What is this depression trying to teach me? What false identity is being dismantled? What authentic self is trying to emerge? What values need to change? What purpose is calling me? Do not rush to answer. Sit with the questions and allow insights to arise from your deeper wisdom. After 20 minutes of inquiry, shift into the transformation command practice. Speak directly to your subconscious with these declarations: I accept this suffering as divine intervention for my evolution. I release all resistance to the growth that is happening. I trust the wisdom of my higher self that orchestrated this crisis. I cooperate with the death of my false self and the birth of my true self. I am not this depression. I am the eternal consciousness using this experience for awakening. I command my consciousness to extract all wisdom and growth from this suffering. I decree my transformation complete. Repeat these commands for 15 minutes with deep feeling, allowing them to reprogram your fundamental relationship with your pain from why is this happening to me to what is this making possible for me. Then, 1 hour before sleep, sit for another 15 minutes in meditation focused on generating gratitude, which will seem impossible at first but is actually the key to transformation. Find gratitude not for the suffering itself, but for what it is making possible, for the wisdom you are gaining, for the false values being stripped away, for the authentic self that is emerging, for the compassion you are developing, for being chosen for this initiation. Finally, in the 60 seconds before sleep, make this final command: I embrace my suffering as sacred transformation. I am becoming who I am meant to be. The pain serves my evolution. I am grateful for this divine crisis. I emerge as a realized soul. I decree it done. After speaking this with conviction, release all effort and sleep, trusting the transformation continues. Within 24 to 72 hours of beginning this practice, you will notice shifts not in the elimination of depression, but in your relationship with it. You will have moments of seeing your suffering from a higher perspective, recognizing patterns and lessons that were invisible before. You will feel less at war with your experience and more curious about what it is revealing. You will notice insights arising about changes that need to happen in your life, authentic choices you have been avoiding, truths you have been suppressing. These are signs that you are beginning to cooperate with the evolutionary process rather than just suffering through it. And this cooperation accelerates the transformation exponentially. As you continue this practice over 40 days, the growth becomes undeniable. You emerge from the depression not just recovered but transformed. You're a different person with different values, different priorities, different consciousness. The things that used to matter feel trivial. The things you never noticed before feel essential. You have developed capacity for presence, compassion, faith, and authenticity that you did not possess before the suffering. And you realize with stunning clarity that you would not trade what you gained for having avoided the pain, that the suffering was actually the greatest gift your soul ever gave you, even though it did not feel like a gift while you were in it. So take the action that signals your commitment to transformation rather than just survival. Write in the comments, my suffering is my awakening, and I embrace divine transformation. This declaration shifts everything. You stop being a victim and become a warrior. Do it now. My beloved friends, your suffering has divine purpose. Your depression is not a mistake, but a mystery school, an initiation into deeper consciousness. Trust the process. Practice these techniques. Extract the wisdom and emerge as the awakened being your soul is forging you to become through the sacred fire of your current pain.